Hello, today we are meeting Professor Konstantin Korotkov and we'll be talking about spirituality in a scientific way. Hello, sir.
Hello, nice to meet you.
Before we begin the scientific topics, please say a few sentences about yourself, just a few sentences about your background.
Okay, for more than 40 years, I'm involved in science. I graduated as quantum physicist, and for first maybe 15 years, I was involved in different fields of quantum physics, like plasma physics, laser physics, cosmic physics. Then I moved to biophysics and to medicine. And the last maybe 30 years, I'm developing different instruments to study humans, to study nature, and to study energy fields. So for many years, I've been working in different universities in St. Petersburg, Russia. Now I live in Israel and in Ashdod mostly. But I collaborate with many different universities worldwide. I'm lecturing a lot. I have, for something, patents, more than 300 papers published in peer-reviewed journals, more than 15, seems to me, books translated to different languages, and it's a lot of international activity.
Okay, the subjects which will be talked today by us are mostly considered spiritual subjects, but we know that spirituality, the part of spirituality which reflects the truth, the reality, is actually physics, but physics on a different level. And I also explained to some people that this is not magic, this is not something to be believed in. This is physics, but the part of physics which we cannot sense but our senses. So this is like my description. How would you describe? You would describe this situation?
I would say that you're right, that it belongs to science, not only to physics, but to science. And I would name it as frontier science. So it's not just we can't describe, because how can we feel magnetic fields? We can't.
Yes.
How we can feel electromagnetic fields? We can't. So our senses are very, very limited. And there are many different frequencies except of our senses. So that's why spirituality, those are different events, situations that we have in our world, in our reality, that are far away from our senses. But it doesn't mean that they are far away from science. It's
Yes.
only beginning of scientific study of all these subjects. Mm-hmm. But 21st century is the century when it will be more and more progress in this field. And with modern scientific understanding, of course, and frontier science will be able more and more understand what does it mean, spirituality, what does it mean our consciousness, and how it is related to our everyday life.
Okay, so how would you describe energy field or the energy of life, the thing which is called prana, chi, ki in Eastern languages? So how would you describe it in our Western language?
So let's go step by step from scientific point of view. We know that you go to the doctor, and doctor can measure your electrocardiogram, electromyogram, activity of your muscles, electroencephalogram, activity of your brain, and it's quite normal. So what doctors are measuring? They are measuring different electrical fields and electrical potentials, because it's possible to measure all those events on the skin, that is typically do, but it's possible to measure it outside of the skin, from the distance. So this is all part of our biological field or energy field. But together with these electrical fields, of course, this is the main component due to the movement of electrons, photons in our body. We have other parts of this field. We have field of our gravitation, We have field of molecules that we emit, and we know that we smell. It's a normal part of our existence. And we have the field of our consciousness. That's another story. So all together, those fields that we can describe from physical point of view, or we just can only speculate about, those are a part of biological field. And the notion of biofield is quite accepted now in science. We can name it energy field because we are based on energy. Without energy, it is nothing. And the main source of our energy for ourselves, those are mitochondria. So mitochondria, it's a quantum particle that we have in every cell of our body, and the most we have in our brain, that produce ATP, adenine triphosphate, that converts to ATP and may produce energy. And this is quantum process. Well studied, well known in science and biophysics. It was a part of Nobel Prize Nobel Prize for this process. But this is the main process. So we eat just to feed our microbiome in our colons and to produce electrons, photons that feed our mitochondria. So that's the biological field. That's why we can name it biofield or we can name it an energy field. It's similar, it's the same, just different names. But we have same fields in nature because nature is alive. It's not just only electromagnetic fields, but we know that every plant, every tree has its own field. We can describe it now from biophysical point of view. We have some understanding, not full, but some. And this is all part of energy fields of nature. And not total about universe, about our Earth, era. And of course, for ancient people, for ancient civilizations, it was very well known. In Chinese tradition, in Indian tradition, Ayurvedic tradition, Chinese medicine, they knew this very well, just by intuition, but it was the basis of their description of human life and life around ourselves. So now from a biophysical point of view, we have clear correlation between those ancient wisdom and our Western understanding.
Where does this energy come from? Because like some people don't eat, they live on prana. Also, we know there are chakras, meridians, so there is the flow of the energies. Where does it originate?
All the energy on the earth originates from sun. So every second during daytime, we have billions of photons that bombard our earth. And every photon, it brings energy. Plants, they accept this energy of photons, they use water and air, and they produce mass. So they generate mass just from sun, from water and air. Of course, in principle, it's possible for human beings as well. So it is possible to live without food, and we know there are many people who live from this. We can name it prana, we can name it photons, we can name it whatever. So it is quite possible from biophysical point of view, but to my mind, it's very boring because food is very important part of our civilization and a big part of our life as well.
Yes, living on prana depends on the consciousness of the person. Okay, so how would you compare consciousness with the mind? What is what and how it works?
You see, it's all terms. So when we talk about something, we need to give, first of all, definition. Typically, by mind, we understand mental processes that people have in their brain, and that is related to everyday activity. This is mind. Consciousness, it is the way how we humans, and not only we, because I have the concept of different levels of consciousness, communicate with the world, and how we respond to the universe, and how we respond to the change of universal conditions, how we respond to each other, how we respond to all the situations. So mind is related to the brain. Consciousness is much more than that. Consciousness is not the product of the brain. Consciousness, it's a product of the universe and our collective consciousness field.
Yeah, and moreover, mind is connected to the brain and the rest of the body, everything together.
No, brain, because brain is a part of the body. But I'm sure, 100% sure that it would be possible, for example, to make transplant of the head. It will be possible at some time, not maybe tomorrow, but sometime. So it was possible to, brain is brain, body is body. As now we can change heart, we can change liver, kidney. Same in the future, it will be possible to change body.
Okay, so now consciousness versus soul. What is soul? What is consciousness? I mean, comparing both.
When we talk about consciousness, it is a scientific notion that we use in science. And as I've told, still we don't have clear definition of that. What does it mean consciousness? There are many, many definitions. But we understand that it's much more than just brain activity. When we talk about soul, it is the way how we are interrelated, how we are connected with universal spirit. So this, if consciousness is accepted notion, then soul is not so well accepted. It's more related to spiritual religious understanding. But if we believe in existence of universal spirit, then we need to believe in soul. And it was many scientists who were studying from Newton, Einstein, Heisenberg, and many top-level neurophysiologists who believed in this, and I belong to this category of scientists as well.
Okay, and now going back to the topic of energy, how would you compare the energy field with torsion field? Because in physics, some scientists, many of them are Russian. In Poland, the scientist which is interested in the torsion field is Dr. Diana Wojtkowiak. Maybe you know her. So how would you compare torsion field and the energy field which is in humans and in the nature?
So I know the notion of torsion field. I know very well Shipov, Gennady Shipov. I knew very well Akimov, who was one of the key leaders in this field. And I belong to scientists. We meet from time to time together to discuss this topic. So torsion field, it's a part of fields in nature related to specific activity of physical subjects. So same as we have the notion of the fields of form, like the fields of pyramids, the fields of different forms, same as we have the notion of the fields of different symbols again. So those are new lines, frontier lines of science that still to be proven, still need to be more and more studied, and it's very interesting lines. And I know top-level scientists who are involved in this field. So, but it's just some part of the field notion, because as I've told, we have huge frequency of different fields. And torsion fields is just one of the fields. We have electromagnetic fields, we have magnetic fields, we have torsion fields, we have fields of form. That's just different topics. They may be a part of a biological field, maybe not. I don't know. It wasn't proven. But biological field or energy field is much more complex notion than just torsion fields.
Okay, so let's go back to the soul. What happens during death? How come it is like, how would you define it? Separation of soul from the body? How would you describe it? What kind of research have you done on that topic?
Now we have a lot of new interesting data in last decades that give us an absolutely new understanding what's going on during death. So first of all, I would relate to research on near-death experiences, when people come to clinical death and then coming back, they describe their notions. This is big, now it's a real part of science, scientific study, and a lot of top-level doctors, professors involved in this study. You can find some big websites on this topic. You can find books on this topic with not just with ideas, but with absolutely clear evidences. And it's more than 5,000 cases. It was demonstrated that after clinical death, about 15-20% of people experience near-death experiences or out-of-body experiences. And this is confirmed cases in many cases. So this is, to my mind, it's very strong evidence. Another strong evidence, those are reincarnation memories. Again, it's a big study done in, first of all, in Virginia University in the United States. And they again collected thousands of cases, proven cases. So there are no doubts. Then, of course, we did a very interesting study, studying people after death. And I have a book about this, Light After Life. And as I know, it's now it's published in Poland. I'm very happy with this. And all those data demonstrate that death is not the end of everything. It is a process of transition from one state to another state. And our soul, our spirit, I don't know how to name it, our consciousness exists after death. We believe that people transform to other frequency. So consciousness operate on just other frequencies compared with our material world.
We can also call it different density.
Different density, different frequency, whatever.
Yeah.
That is why we can't we can't feel it, we can't see it. But you know that cats, they can, dogs, they can. There are very interesting experiments of Gary Schwartz in the United States who make really tremendously interesting experiments on detecting spirits. We did experiments of this kind as well with our equipment. Again, we were able, in some cases, detect very interesting information. So it means that after death, it is separation. Our material body comes to dust, but our consciousness, our spirit, our soul still exists. We don't know for how long, we don't know where, we don't know how, it's just only ideas. But it is many proven data that is really so.
Okay, so because we are like a composite of this invisible part and visible part, there are also entities which have only the invisible part, and they need to feed on something. They are like parasites. We can call them mental parasites or kind of spiritual parasites. Do you have any tools to measure them or to remove them?
Okay, first of all, let me explain. Parasites is just a little part of, again, of spiritual reality.
Yeah.
They do exist, but it's not the common way. Most of spirits, most of possessed consciousness, they do exist without being parasites. So it's absolutely clear. Some of them, of course, if they are not freed from this world, if they have too many connections, they may be like a parasites. Plus, we have a notion of this mind parasites, but it may be not related to possessed people only, it may be related to some other topics as well. So there are many complicated topics known to religious movements for centuries, known to people, psyche people as well. So that is very complex topic. And now we have only some ideas about this. If, again, we have clear evidences from my point of view that after death we have this separation, we have this spiritual journey, then with parasites we have only some ideas. That's why I am not a specialist in this field. I can tell you absolutely nothing about cleaning this. We can detect it with our equipment, we can, in many cases, But what to do next, I don't know.
Okay. So very similar topic, sacraments, casting curses on someone, rituals. What happens when someone is cursed? This kind of stuff. Have you done any research on that?
Not research, but I've seen many cases.
Okay.
You know that we need to understand that we belong to collective informational field or collective consciousness field. And this field is part of our reality, but this field has many layers. And the first layer, this is a layer of our nearest environment, where we live, our family, our society, group of people we belong to. And of course, your consciousness would be strongly influenced by this group, by this near around, and of course would be strongly dependent on this. So as a rule, all these courses, all these rituals, they operate inside this circle. So people who belong to this circle, they are maybe strongly influenced. That's why very well known that in Africa, when ancient old dwarfs or wizards was sending course to members of their society, members of their tribe, then people was dying. But then they were trying to send these courses to European people. In most cases, it was nothing. In most cases. So same here. That is why it all belongs not only on particular person who is doing this, but it belongs to all society. We need to think about this in the terms of collective consciousness field of different levels and different rounds, I would say.
Yeah, and it's so I think it's a kind of a mind control also, because those people inside this group, they believe in this curse, so they believe how it works, but someone from outside doesn't believe, so this belief doesn't enforce this curse.
Absolutely, absolutely, I agree. Because belief, it means your identification to which group you belong to.
Yeah.
So you define yourself, okay, I'm Catholics, I belong to this group, and then all the courses done inside this may influence me. If person is a Jewish person or Muslim or I don't know, Buddhist, then of course for him all this Catholic course of Papa would be nothing.
Okay, and now your favorite topic may be the devices for measuring the fields. There is a device called Quantec, which can measure, which can diagnose the field from picture. And also there are devices where you need a human being who puts fingers and you can read the aura of the person. So these devices work in different way. And you like these topics, so please compare these two methods of measuring this field.
Okay, so you know that we are developing for last 40 years, maybe, on 30 years. I'm developing a line which is known as GDV, Gazi Church Visualization, or modern it's BioWell. And this is really the instrument that allows to measure energy fields from the fingers for human beings and allow to measure the energy of environment, of water, leaves, different subjects. And it is development of so-named Kirlian effect, well known in last century, but we make it on modern electronic basis and computer processing. So it's modern scientific instrument, and thousands of people are using this worldwide. So this is our approach. And this is based on scientific background. So we have hundreds, more than 300 or 400 papers published on this topic in different languages, in different countries, and by top-level scientists, medical doctors, professors in many universities. So it's proven. If we claim that we are doing some analysis of human being, analysis of your well-being, then it's proven by scientific study, published scientific study. What you are talking about this quantum device, I know this device, I know this approach. This is a way how people try to get information about person by images, by parts of their body, some hair or something, and they try to make it some connections. When it's done by people, so it works in many cases. If people have this ability to do it, then it works. I think that this approach to make it instrumental way still based on people. So it's the way how some people can connect to other person and get information from other person. Because it's quite possible to get information on the distance from some notions. So that's why I see it's quite possible. Same as we can do it now by our technology. You know, by face recognition, you can define not only who is it, but you can define a lot of psychological features of a person. And it's very well developed system. For example, you make a photo of a person, and then you compare right side and left side. And then you can derive a lot of information. Or you compare the size of ears as well. It gives you a lot of information. Or eyes. Or it's a lot of approach. And I'm sure that it will be more and more develop this approach. Not to tell about iris analysis. It's well established. It is again possible to make on photography. So that's why there are scientific approach to this, and it's very well, very nice approach. It's developing based on artificial intelligence and huge databases. So it's part of future analysis, and this is more, I would say, spiritual approach. Again, it may be done. Some people can do it.
Okay, so please explain, if you can, of course, if it's not a secret, how the sensors work in these kind of devices. Because like you have the sensor of microwaves, it's very simple. You need to get the resonance between the energy field, electromagnetic energy field, and the electric device. But here you have some kind of a torsion field or a different kind of energy field, and it needs to influence some material tool. So who discovered that, and in what way you get the resonance because between the energy field and this device?
Okay, so of course I can't give you a detailed description of all these devices, because in most cases what is bad, they don't have scientific background, they don't have scientific data that prove that they work really good. And of course, their inventors, they try to hide everything what's going on. So, but sensors, you know, that in some time I was involved in telepathy experiments on big scale. And my idea was to develop different sensors that respond to human intentions from the distance. And I've developed different sensors. Most of them were based on plasma principles. Some of them were based on liquid crystals. And most of them, they had some effect. So it was possible to get response from the sensor when people were sending their intentions. Finally, we came to this construction that we are producing now, and we have energy environment sensor that is named Sputnik that we produce, and it's based again on physical principles, on the principle of propagation of standing electromagnetic waves in space. So it may be different principles. Absolutely different principles. as I've told, I myself, I tested many principles. So what particular principle is this or that device? I don't know, of course, because it depends on the inventor. But to me, it's not something enigmatic, I would say. It's quite possible. It only depends on how you do this, and very important, it depends how you can prove it. Because a lot of inventors, they claim that it's very good, that it works well, but they don't prove it. If it's not proven, then it's for nothing.
All right. So maybe a topic from yoga. Have you done any research on levitation, bilocation, materialization, this kind of stuff? How it works?
Those effects are very rare. I was able to see it several times, mostly with Oriental masters. Mm-hmm. And we've been measuring those people, and really we can see the transformation to altered state of consciousness, and then they can do some effect. For example, I've seen levitation, that I've seen, and dematerialization I haven't seen, so I don't know whether it's possible or not. Some interesting effects on using energy, that's again I've seen, and I was measuring some of this. So there are people who can do this, mostly in Oriental traditions. In China, there are many people of this kind. In India, there are some people of this kind as well. Maybe some masters who are in European tradition as well can do it.
Okay. How would you define or describe enlightenment?
Enlightenment, it is transformation of person to high frequency, altered state of consciousness, when people have direct connection to higher planes of reality. And of course, it may be done in some sessions. Some people have it during meditation. They transform to this state. Or there are people who live in this state practically all the time. So that's, but it's, of course, it's very high level of spiritual development for the person. And I know this type of people, I met them, and they, of course, all of them, they have tremendous impression.
Mm-hmm. Water. What kind of research have you done on water? Okay. Like Masaru Emoto is popular on this topic, and I know that you also did a lot of research.
Absolutely. No, Masaru Emoto, he was genius in presenting his results. Mm-hmm. So he was a really great person, and I was privileged to be his friend for a long time. And he was really fantastic to show the world the importance of water in a very clear visual way. So what he's done is really fantastic. We did a lot of research on scientific way, so of course it's not so well known, but it was. I have some sensors that I've developed, and people are using those sensors, so we can study energy of water, we can study structured water, we can demonstrate the effect of different devices to water. We can study effect of water to people, and to see effect of special water, structured water. Together with Professor Voyekov, we wrote a book about this, about new science of water, because it's really a lot of data. And you know, it is great scientists who worked in this field. Unfortunately, Luc Montagnier, who was maybe top leader in this field, he passed away recently, but he did research that was groundbreaking, and it was scientific research, proven, published. Of course, many conservative scientists, they are opposed to this, but it's very easy to replicate this research and then to see it. So we understand that now we are in the process of creating a new science of water. Many scientists do this. Before coronavirus, we were able to meet together every year for conferences. Now we do it online, but it's really big movement in the world.
You wrote many books. Some of them are already in Polish. So please, in a few sentences, describe what is in your books.
You see, I have two types of books. One type, those are scientific books that is written about energy fields, about our approach to study energy fields. And those books are mostly for professionals, for people who are interested in this approach. So this is the latest is the energy of health. Of course, I describe a lot of topics in these books. Another line of books, those are books for public. And in those books, I cover several topics. First of all, those are health. Second, those are consciousness. Because to my mind, if we want to be healthy, if we want to be strong, we need to, first of all, to have high level of consciousness. Because all our life depends on our health and depends on our mental and consciousness attitude to life. So this is the idea that I try to present in all my books. And I'm happy that some of them are translated to Polish and they're published in Poland. And so I'm really deeply thankful to the publishers, to translators. And my latest book, which was published, is Light After Life. And this is a book about this transition from life to next life, from our modern, from our physical life to next level. And this book is very, very popular in the world because I present scientific data and a lot of data. It's not just only graphs and scientific data, but it's a lot of discussion about this topic. So my idea was from the very beginning to present this to people and to persuade them that death is not just the end of everything, it's just transition. And you know that it was very touching moment for me when I was lately in let me see, yes, in Mexico City. No, it was not Mexico City. It was my latest was in the United States. I was lecturing in the United States, and one lady came to me after my presentation, and she told, you know, Professor, that due to your book, Light After Life, I was saved and many people were saved. Because when my dear people passed away, and somehow I got your book, for me, it gave me a hope that it's not just the end, it's separation, but not the final separation. And that's why I'm giving your book to all the people whom I know. So for me, it was very, very touching situation. So that's why I believe and I hope that Polish people will be reading these books. I hope that this current situation with Russia, this dreadful situation with Russian war, Russian invasion, would not influence this, because again, I always tell that I live in Israel, and now I'm an Israeli citizen. So that's why I look from other side to all this situation. It's dreadful, of course, but what we can do.
Yeah. And based on your knowledge and experience with life after death, please explain what to do after death. Should we go through the tunnel to the light or do something else? Because there are many opinions on that.
You know, that in ancient traditions, it was always the way how people was preparing to die. And if we read Tibetan Book of Death, if we read Egyptian Book of Death, if we look Russian Orthodox books on preparation to death, then it was always preparation of soul for this after death travel. And the main topic in all religions, and of course in the Catholic religion, first of all, to clean yourself, to clean your spirit, to clean your soul from all bad things you've done in your life. And this is very, very important.
Like forgiving, for example.
Yes, absolutely. Like forgiving, like asking forgiveness for other people, from other people, because we know that in our life we did many bad things. It's inevitable in life. And that's why many people were offended by us. And to ask them to forgive us, that's very important. And forgive other people as well who did bad things to us. To clean your soul, to prepare your soul for the journey, for this travel. And then, as in accordance with all spiritual traditions, soul can travel easily and really be in very good situation after death.
Okay, so we went through all the topics which I prepared. So please, maybe we forgot about something you would like to mention at the end.
Yes, absolutely. You know that now we live in very difficult times. We had these 2 years of COVID madness.
Yeah.
Now we have new situation with war, again, another madness. And it's difficult times. It's a time of transformation of European society, tremendous transformation. So it is difficult for many people. It is tragic for many people, but we don't expect that it will be easy. And the only way we can do in this situation is develop our consciousness. Think about some spiritual topics. Use some means of high level, like music, like poetry, like top level arts, because it's all exist. And you know, it's not the first time when humankind comes through the crisis. So it's one more crisis that we have in our European society. And by European, I mean both Europe and the United States. So it is difficult. Many people are in depression, many people are in total despair, many people are suffering. But if we are developing our spirit, if we are developing our consciousness, if we try to do the best for other people, if we send our love to other people, to suffering people, if we send their support to them, then we can make life much better, not only for ourselves, but for people who are around us.
Super. Thank you, sir, for the interview and for sharing with us a little bit of your research, of your knowledge.
Okay. It was a tremendous pleasure for me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. And see you next time.